Welcome back to the 19th hole, your source for everything golf betting and just, hang out with a couple cool dudes. Speaking of cool dudes, there's only one on the show this week, and that's my boy Keith Flemming joining me as he does frequently. So Keith, thank you very much for being here. We are here this week to talk about the memorial presented by Workday over at the lovely Muirfield Village Golf Club, Jack's Place, as it's so affectionately called. But before we get to that, just want to go through the standard reminders that we run through. As always, guys, thank you for all the love and support that you give to us. And if you guys appreciate the content and want to stay on our side of the gambling advice that we give out, make sure you join the IBT Golf family. The IBT Golf family is our way to join the chat with our analysts, all of the members of the IBT team, as well as all of the other members of the family. You can chat with us. You can join our memorabilia giveaways and even enter into some of our free contests, such as our PGA Tour one and done contest. It's getting hotly contested over there. The leaderboard is changing. So make sure you do not miss your opportunity to join that, and that is all free. However, for just $3.99 a month or $36 for the year, you can get access to our exclusive weekly betting model as well as our full weekly betting cards. And this $3.99 a month or $36 for the year doesn't just get you access to the golf side of things, but also the IBT football family, racing family, and entertainment family, where we are also cleaning up so far this year. So make sure, if you guys are already spending the money, what's a $3, $4 bet? Why make the bet when we can just help you win more of those bets? So make sure to check in with all of that. But Keith, what do you say we recap the last week of golf? It came down to the wire, but our boy Russie did take home the Chuckie. Russell Henley wins the Charles Schwab Challenge. What a great event. It was fun. It ends in a playoff, which is always a sign of a fun tournament, if you ask me. Anything where there's no, the blowout wins are fun, right? We all love seeing a guy, win by 8 strokes or whatever it may be, but it came down to the wire for Henley and Eric Cole, who ended up finishing in second place as Russ did birdie the 18th hole on the first playoff hole to take the win. We talked about Henley. This is our second straight week of hitting one of the winners on the show. So on a good run there. And Russ did basically exactly what we expected the man to do. He led the field in greens and regulation. He was the most accurate driver in the field. He was second on approach last week, gaining 8 strokes. He gained 10 off the tee. Kind of proved our point that play around the green didn't really matter much. He was 62nd around the green, and that was just steady enough with the putter to take this one home. Keith, we know he's a Georgia Bulldog. You love yourself some Russell Henley. How did it feel watching him take this one home?
Yeah, I mean, again, full disclosure, he went to high school with 2 of my cousins, so I've known Russell Henley a long time. He went to UGA, which go Dogs. So very biased, but just so proud of this dude, man. Like, what he's done with his golf career is pretty remarkable, because he seemed like he was going to kind of be a journeyman. Like the first 5-10 years he was on tour, where he, never was really in danger of losing his car, but also not exactly racking up wins and having these big moments. And, he won Bay Hill just a couple of years ago. I mean, to birdie the last 4 holes, the last 3 of regulation and the first of, extra holes to win in a playoff, like, that's rarefied air, man. And he, I said it going into the PGA, and I'm going to keep saying it. He is going to win a major championship. I'm just like certain of that. He's just too good, man. When you're first in driver accuracy, first in scrambling, second in bogey avoidance, like that plays a lot of places. And again, a really good iron player, great putter. But more than anything, he's just so steady. And especially following what happened at the Ryder Cup, where I know he was gutted to miss that putt that he thinks he should have made. And then to come back and already have a win again, because it was obviously a lot longer period in between wins last time.
Right.
It just said this dude's one of the best players in the world right now. And I'm just very happy for him, man. And Russ is that guy, man. If you really look at his performances for now, like going on 16 straight months, it's ridiculous. He basically finishes top 20 every single week.
Yeah, he's been the epitome of consistency. After, like you said, he won in each of his first 2 seasons on the PGA Tour. Took a couple more years to get another win where he did in 2017, but then he didn't win again until 2023. So this is a guy who certainly, as you stated, was going through it. During that stretch, he was really struggling with the putter, but clearly over the last 3 years, that's been, one of the strengths of his game in a lot of ways. And it was a prime example of what steady golf can get you on the PGA Tour. We're looking at his 4th round, his Sunday, he's 3 under through 2 holes. He's off to an incredible start, and then bogeys 3 straight, ends the back 9 with a bogey. So after 2 holes, you're 3 under, and then you make the turn at 1 over. A lot of players are panicking at that point, and they're trying to make the hero shot. They're trying to turn into prime Tiger, which is not in most players' bags. But Russ just stayed steady. He birdied 11, ripped off a streak of pars there. And then, like you said, the 3 straight birdies to close out the round to get into the playoff. And then to birdie that 18th hole again, really just shows that steady and consistent is just as good on the PGA Tour as having, the elite ceilings. I mean, like we talk about it with Scottie every week. Like, yeah, Scottie's not winning at the frequency he was last year, but the dude is like a lock to go top 5 in a tournament, it seems, more often than not. And just that level of consistency is huge for a guy who, like you said, from his win in 2017, even after he got the win, he won the Shell Houston Open, performed well at the Masters that year, and then it was a bunch of missed cuts, barely cracking the top 30, a performance here or there. And then he, for 4 or 5 years, he'd have like 3-4 tournaments in a row where he'd put up a good performance and then he'd fall back off. And then, was really winning the Worldwide Tech in 2023. He struggled again after that, missed 3 of his next 5 cuts. And then he you can see where the switch flipped. And after the Players that year is when he started just being this pinnacle of consistency, a guy who, I don't want to say he's a lock to top 20 every week. I mean, he was coming off of a missed cut at the PGA Championship. But when you play this steady level of golf, like even for most of this year, his irons haven't been cooperating with him. And he just showed exactly what can happen when you keep the ball in the fairway at a lot of these courses, which is something we're certainly going to talk about this week. When you can just keep the ball out of trouble, that creates as many scoring opportunities as being a guy who can bomb at 350 and hit some magical weird wedges that just do things that golf balls shouldn't do. Just having that level of consistency, I think there's a legitimate argument that those 5 years of struggle probably made Henley into the player that he is today, because he stopped trying to be the hero and he said, I know what I can do on a golf course. I'm just going to go do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's what I love about this game is that there's no one way to play it.
Right.
And you have to play to your strengths. And to your point, Henley has admitted that he got away from that, right? Like, he's not the longest hitter. He's not somebody that is going to, even though he has gotten to where his birdie average is as good as just about anyone on tour the last 2 years, but he wasn't necessarily worried about making birdies in bunches. He's like, look, my game is keep it in front of me, avoid big numbers,
yep,
and just hang around. And that's exactly what he did, on Sunday, when I was so mad at him after he was 3 under in a blink of an eye. And then, like, they didn't show him for a few minutes. And I'm going, what is going on? I opened the PGA Tour app. I'm like, he did not just bogey
yep,
3 straight holes after a 3 under through 2 start.
He sure did, but he bounced back as well as anybody could have hoped on a day where the course was playing as hard, if not harder, than it had at any point up to that point. I mean, Eric Cole is the runner up there. He fired off a 63 on Saturday and follows that up with a 70 on Sunday. And those 3 strokes of difference, between him and Henley, if Cole birdies one more hole, he parred the last 7 holes going in to end this round. And he was another guy, 2 under through 2. He has a bogey on 4, a double on 9, he also birdied 11, and then just played par golf from there. But
and probably thought it was going to be enough. In fairness to him, like it took Henley birdieing the last 3 holes to force a playoff.
Yeah, and this is a day where the low score was 5 under, which was Ben Griffin to get into 3rd place, just 1 stroke back of Cole and Henley. So, we're not talking about a tournament that was decided by a crazy swing round one way or another. Henley, again, just the epitome of consistency, went 66, 66, 69, 67. No crazy numbers, no crazy, he wasn't making like 3 eagles in a round like we've seen some players do this year. He just played his game, and that's all you can do, right? Like we can all, I look at a golf course and we all think about that one shot that we hit. We've been trying to recreate it every time since. I'm still thinking about a stinger I hit 4 years ago that landed and rolled 2 feet to the pin. And I'm still trying to do it. I still can't really hit a stinger, but I'm thinking about it. And I really do want to hit that stinger again. But I'm going to play better golf if I'm not trying to do things I can't do. If I know what my game is and I play it, and that's what Russell Henley has been doing and has consistently been doing. And like you said, it's just great to see him win. Dude's a family man, with the picture of his kids going up and hugging him after the round. I'm not a parent. I don't claim to know what that feels like, but I still get teary-eyed when I see things like that. Like, regardless, you could be a guy like Henley who's been very successful in his PGA Tour career. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's made $50 million, but still, that's a $1.7 million paycheck winning that tournament right there. And then having your family right there to celebrate with you. It's got to be one of the greatest feelings in the world.
And they're with him each and every week. He is one of the few guys on tour. The family's with him basically every event he plays in. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some exceptions. I do want to say for Eric Cole, though, man, the PGA comms and also the broadcast for, bringing up the fact that he is now the only PGA Tour rookie since they started giving that award, I think in the late 70s, to have not won a PGA Tour event. Mm-hmm. They could have saved that for after the event. But to say that during the telecast, I saw it on X, again, early in the final round, I'm just going, man, that feels like an announcer's jinx, and it kind of was.
It definitely was. But I mean, overall, still a great outcome for Cole. It's $1 million paycheck for the runner-up in this tournament too. His performance vaulted him into the Aon Swing 5, so it's going to open the amount of tournaments that he's going to get in for the rest of the year. We're not going to really talk about him a ton on this show, but he's a guy I do really like this week as well, just given what Muirfield Village has to offer. Speaking of that, I think it's a great time to just start talking about Muirfield, what we can expect out of the Memorial. So let's get the caddy notes ready and head on over there. All right, before we really dive into Muirfield Village, I have to ask you, Keith, because I have an opinion here, and I need to know if you feel the same, or if you don't, which is fine if you don't. I'll allow it this time. Is Muirfield the best course on the PGA Tour that doesn't host a major, or has never hosted a major?
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say.
because that's where I sit. Like, this is one of the events that I look forward to every single year. I've played Muirfield Village before. It is an incredibly difficult golf course for your average Joe Schmo like me. I played it when I was a 2 handicap and it made me look like I was a 20. Like, this is a course that will truly test players from tee to green. We're looking at just under 7,600 yards at a par 72. This week we do have a cut, even though it is a signature event. So top 50 plus ties, plus anyone within 10 strokes of the lead, which this is an event that a single digit under par score is going to be a great score for a player through the week. So it may not be impossible to see a pretty good number of players come through the cut here. But this was a Jack Nicklaus design. He originally was the architect back in 1974, has redesigned it a couple times over the year, most recently in 2020, in which he said that would be the last redesign it saw in his lifetime. So this is, what you're getting. And Jack wanted to make Augusta, but just a little bit less. He wanted Augusta, but not in the South, is really what he kind of built here. This is one of the longest courses on the PGA Tour. It's the 8th longest over the last 5 years that we've seen. It's the 3rd toughest that we've seen over the last 5 years. Bent grass greens and fairways with some wicked rough Kentucky bluegrass rye fescue blend that'll be 4 inches long. I don't know about you. I don't like playing in 2-inch rough, let alone 4-inch rough. So that was a struggle for me. Also, where it's the antithesis of Augusta, right? Is Augusta is known for these massive green complexes, huge greens. These are the 5th smallest greens that we're going to see on tour, 5,000 square foot greens, and they're going to play fast. This is probably the fastest bent grass greens that we're going to see this year. But Keith, when you're looking at a venue like Muirfield Village, what are you looking for out of the players this week?
First off, it's funny. Augusta National is a great comp for this venue. There's a ton of correlation between players that have success at Augusta and then also have success at Muirfield. But the other big thing is both feature these huge wide fairways. In both events, you're going to have guys hitting 70+% of fairways. The difference being Rory just proved again at Augusta this year that
you can kind of hit it wherever you want.
You can hit it wherever you want and you can compete.
You can hit where you don't want and still have a shot.
That's not the case here.
Nope.
It's not so much, obviously again, 4-inch rough, you don't want to be missing fairways, period. But it's not the small miss. It's the big miss because 12 holes with water danger, 7 off the tee, 11 on approach. It's the highest miss fairway equals penalty on the PGA Tour. So you better, again, hit those fairways. So driver accuracy is obviously very important. Par 5 scoring is so crucial. It's just, again, so weird how the par 5s are the only holes that play under par on this golf course. And yet they're the 7th toughest on tour and some of the longest. So it's weird to hear that. It shows again just how much these guys rely on par 5 scoring just in general, that even when playing a golf course that it's the only holes that play under par, when they're really difficult, these guys will still be able to at least get something out of them. And that really has been the difference since the remodel, 2nd toughest non-major venue on tour. So, that's a 5-year sample. That's saying something. 7 hole par 4s of 455+ yards, 3 par 3s of 200+ yards. I'm really looking for, again, guys that are accurate off the tee, looking more even so than at driving accuracy on distance of edge of fairway. I think it's huge that the guy's not making big misses on approach. 52% of the approaches are going to come from 175+ yards. So that is obviously a very big number, the proximity of 175+. And then where it is very much like Augusta is it's going to come down to, can you scramble, avoid bogeys, and make putts on some of the firmest, fastest greens on the planet? And again, the difference between Augusta National and here is Augusta National, you've got runoffs, everything's mowed down. these guys are going to have 4-inch rough, and you miss this tiny firm green, and then you got to get it up and down coming out of 4-inch rough. And if you need to know what we're talking about, just look at the Tiger has twice here, literally chunked a wedge shot on a par 5 that he just missed the green in 2, and then chipped it in right after. And I mean, that is, again, how close the difference is between a shot that goes a foot that you missed the green by just a few yards, and a shot that goes in the hole. So scoring is going to be down. That's the big thing. I mean, Scheffler, I think, is 18 shots better cumulative than any other player in the field the last 3 years here. We have seen like the winning scores still be relatively low, but those like medium and like the top 20, top 40 like type scores, dude, they'll be way over par. Only 11 guys were under par each of the last years at this venue. So
2 over was a top 20 score last year.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'd think with how long this course is, right? Just under 7,600 yards, that you want to be a guy who can hit it farther. But Jack very much said, oh, you want to hit it far? Okay. The closer you get to the hole, the tighter the fairway is going to get, the harder positions you're going to put yourself in. In fact, in 2024, just 2 years ago, distance off the tee actually had a negative correlation to strokes gained. Players who hit it farther lost strokes, which is unheard of on the PGA Tour. Even last year, the correlation for strokes gained total on distance on average on the PGA Tour is about 0.16. Last year was 0.06. Sorry. Like, it's so unimportant to hit it far here. It is entirely a positional golf course. Sure, you can hit it far, but the farther you get, not only do the fairways get tighter, that means the trees are closer. That means there's more overhangs you have to deal with. And we haven't even talked about the bunkers on this course, right, which are some of the most diabolical bunkers that, like, you look at them and you go, that shouldn't be hard. But these bunkers are brutal, which for me, sand save percentage was like an absolute must have in the model for me this week as a result of that, because getting in those bunkers is a real quick way to add 2 strokes to your hole. It's just a brutal course all the way around. And it's one that, especially since the remodel in 2020, has played very differently. Like we saw Cantlay, we saw Billy Horschel. They won with kind of just consistent play on all facets of the game throughout. And then you see a Victor Hovland, who his best performance that week was on the greens. He was pretty average all in the other facets of the game, but putting was it's what carried him to the playoff with Denny McCarthy. It's also what carried Denny. Denny gained even a stroke and a half per round more than Victor did on the greens. And then you have a year like 2024, where Scottie lost strokes around the green, barely gained anything off the tee, barely gained anything with the flat stick, and gained over 12 strokes, almost 13 strokes on approach.
It was one of the best iron performances I've ever seen.
The crazy thing about Scottie is that's not even the best one of his career. He's got one where he gained like 15. It's just absurd what that man can do. And then last year, again, lost strokes with the putter, but played pretty consistently throughout the bag. So this is a venue where even if part of your game is lacking a little bit, the overall difficulty of the course just kind of equalizes everything and gives you the opportunity to make up for it with other parts of your game, which is awesome. And we've got some comments here I do want to shout out. Mike said, I'm hot. Thank you, Mike. I was just playing Dungeons and Dragons with Mike before this, so I really do appreciate that. We got Razorback here. Great stuff. Thank you, my friend. And Joe, just listening to the show has made me a scratch golfer on the Wii. Props to you. I still can't break par on Wii Golf. That's another conversation for a different day. But thank you guys all for tuning in. But, going off of that, obviously, we know what kind of players that we're looking for here. I know you really want to get into the strategy of betting this week. So let's head on over, get these clubs twirling, and start talking about the players and what we're looking for this week. So with the books this week, It's as expected. Scottie's the favorite. Still, honestly, 3-1 for Scottie in a tournament that he's won the last 2 years. Kind of still feels like favorable odds for Scottie for once. Like it's a lot better than the barely doubling your money we were getting earlier this year. But after him, it's kind of what you'd expect to see at the top of the board. Rory going off between 10 and 12-1, Cam Young 15-16, Ludwig, Xander, and Matt Fitzpatrick kind of round out the top of the board there. But you were bringing up to me this week, outside of really Billy Horschel, the favorites are winning this event.
I mean, you've had 4 of the 5 years. Again, if you remove Horschel, average odds of the winner plus 1,200. Scheffler is plus 300, depending on, again, where you're looking at to win this week. And he should, without a doubt, be the heavy favorite. Again, the last 3 years, he is 17 shots better than anybody else in the field. Cumulative score, he's finished no worse than, I think it's like 3rd or 4th now the last 4 years this event.
He went third, win.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's obviously going to do well. This is one of those weeks that if you're already looking at the winner is going to most certainly come from 25-1 and below. And then the heavy favorite is obviously Scheffler at, basically 3-1. I don't feel like that's as good a value as, for instance, like the top 5, top 10, top 20 plays. When you look at, for instance, like Sepp Straka, he's finished no worse than 16th here the last 3 years, consecutive top 5s. He's plus 910 to top 5, plus 385 to top 10. So you're getting better odds.
Oh, it's even better than that now.
Is it really?
On FanDuel, if you want Straka to top 10, it's 5-1.
I mean, that's insane. I mean, look, and I want Scheffler to win. We haven't had a three-peat in quite some time on the PGA Tour, but it was like 2010 or 2011. Tiger Woods is the only person to ever win this event 3 years in a row, and that was at, the absolute peak of Tiger's powers. I want Scheffler to win, but if we're being honest, this has been the year that, it's just not happening for Scottie. He's got so many runner-ups, and you're getting way better odds for somebody like Straka at 5-1 to top 10, who's finished top 5 each of the last 2 years, and he destroys second shot golf courses, which just definitely qualifies as, and if you look at his numbers from like 175 and up, it's just 25 yards of, being one of the top 15 players on tour from those distances. I just think that that's really where the value is, even with some of these top 20s. I mean, like Brent Snedeker, who, we had fun joking about when he won a couple of weeks ago at Myrtle, but he proved he could still win, on the PGA Tour, even a secondary event. He's in this field. I was like, when was the last time Snedeker played this thing? Last year. He finished 7th.
Yep.
You're getting Snedeker at plus 460 on DK to top 20. You're getting him at almost 2-1 to top 40 here. And it's just, I think that's a lot better chances than Scheffler when, again, for whatever reason, he seems to be snake bitten this year, where even when him playing very well in a lot of these events, Fitzpatrick hits a forearm, right? From 220 yards to a foot. Like, just stuff has been happening, and that is golf.
Yeah, he's losing to guys who are having incredible weeks. Try hard here. Thank you for the like and the subscription. We really do appreciate it. He thinks Scottie has what it takes to win. We know Scottie has what it takes to win this event. It's just a matter of will it happen. But, going off of that, obviously want to get into the board here a little bit and talk about some of the plays that we do like this week. We'll talk about, obviously, we're going to touch on the outright odds, but we'll also touch on some of the other odds that are out there for these guys. But, Scottie, we've been talking about him going off 315 plus 315. So, 3.1-1, really what he's going off of right now. Those odds have actually gotten better for us. He opened at 2.8 to 1 or 3 to 1 depending on the book. So the odds have actually gotten a little bit better. The best odds you could have gotten him at so far were 3.5 to 1, which was about a 7-hour stretch on FanDuel where that was available. But otherwise, that very quickly people saw that number got happy. That went back down to plus 310. But like you said, with Scottie, obviously the favorite here, obviously a guy who has what it takes to win this event. The only thing that really concerns me about Scottie this week is, even though his approach play overall has gotten a lot better, it's his long iron approach that is still a bit lacking to where it has been. And this is a course where long iron approach is going to come into play. We see more shots than average in that 200 to 225 and 250 yard plus bucket. So that is really my biggest concern with Scottie. But I mean, if you are getting creative with a parlay or something like that, like Scottie to top 5 is, minus 122 right now on DraftKings. If you go with him and you've got a baseball bet that you like, a basketball play that you like, something of that nature, you could certainly still make really good money on Scottie if you play your cards right here. If you like him to be the first round leader, that's going off at 10 to 1. It's certainly an event where he can do that. And, again, first round leader, maybe 1 under par. Like this is this could be a very tough course pending conditions. But as we continue down the board here, Rory's going off at 12 to 1, which honestly, I do like as a play more than Scottie. Rory was the number 1 player in my model this week. When you look at Rory and kind of the difference between Rory and Scottie, you're seeing a lot of the same numbers. Both of these guys are top 10 on approach over the last 36 rounds. Scottie's a little bit better out of the sand, but Rory is 16th in approach from 200 plus, second off the tee. He's been a better bent grass putter than Scottie over the last 36 rounds. He's 7th on fast bent grass greens, whereas Scottie's 48th. Scottie's scored more, made less bogeys. Rory's been better on the par 5s, which are going to be huge. As we talked about, those par 5s, you have to go under par on the par 5s if you want to stand a chance to win this event. And just his profile just doesn't have the glaring hole of that long iron approach right now. Obviously, we could get into this event and Scottie could have figured it out and he could be throwing darts from 250 to 2 feet for all we know. But just on paper pre-event, Rory feels like a more profitable option, especially if, like you said, you're going with more of those placement props. He's plus 240 to top 5. He's still going off at plus money to top 10. It's not until you get to the top 20 range where you're starting to get into the minus money range. But, Rory to top 10 at plus 122, it's like, do I bet that or do I bet Scottie to win at 3 to 1? It's not that massive of a difference in terms of the overall payouts that are available there. But I do think Rory in his current form has a better statistical profile this week. Obviously, I'm factoring in course history here as well. Scottie is obviously the clear leader in terms of course history. Rory's 4th in strokes gained total in his career at Muirfield Village in this field. So
he's not been quite as good though since the renovation, but what I am fascinated to see and why I'm just very interested to see what Rory does this week is he's won at Augusta twice since his last appearance at Muirfield Village. And again, there's, maybe no better correlation comp court, than Augusta National to here. What does that do for his confidence? And does that mean that, we see Rory on a mission and, he's already once this year kind of rained on Scottie's parade. Does he do it again this week? And I think his odds are one of the better values when you think about look, I still think Scheffler is better than Rory.
Yeah. 100%.
But he's not 4 times right. Better than Rory. He's just not.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on down the board here, we have Xander going off 18 to 1. You can get him at most books right now. I don't know where I sit on Xander. Like on paper, he's a top 5 player in the model. Statistically, he feels like a guy that every year should perform better than he has. And I don't want to discredit his performances here. We were talking about a guy who missed the cut here in his debut in 2018, rattled off 4 straight top 15 finishes after that. He's had a couple top 25s and a top 8 over his last 3 starts. Like, it's not like he plays poorly here. We just haven't seen hit, like, on paper, Xander is built for this golf course, and he just has not broken through yet. It's kind of like how we view Ludwig every other week. He's like built for this golf course and just doesn't win. That's what we're seeing with Xander. So Xander is certainly a guy where I'm leaning more heavily into those placement markets for him. A top 20 for Xander pays off minus 136. Top 10 range pays off plus 180. So you're still getting decent odds for him to have a good performance. Just based off of what we've seen recently, a top 10 for me even feels, I don't want to say unattainable, but it feels a bit out of reach, especially when you consider that, like, yes, in 2024, he T8 here, but that was also the year where he was in contention for being the best golfer on the PGA Tour. And he's just not that player anymore.
Not at this moment. He is, though, trending back. Like, I
definitely.
I'm very curious to see what Xander does just moving forward. Remember, we've got 2 majors left this season, and he was also not healthy at the start of this year.
Right.
And if you look, those irons, they keep getting better. The flat stick continues to, slightly improve. I want to have Xander back because, again, I want all these guys mixing it up.
Golf's more fun when there's competition.
Amen. So, but I agree with you that, like, at this moment, I do not trust Xander. No.
Yeah. Same boat here. Guy that I do trust, and I've been on this man all year, and it's been one of the most profitable decisions of my life. Matt Fitzpatrick going off currently at 22-1 to win this event via FanDuel, 25-1 even if you have access to Caesars Sportsbook in your area. But, like, I don't feel like we're talking about Matt Fitzpatrick and what he's done this year enough. This guy's won 3 times on the PGA Tour this year. Yes, one of them was a team event, but even outside that, he's got the 2 other wins at the RBC and at the Valspar. He top 20'd at the Masters, top 15'd at the PGA just a couple weeks ago. He's got a runner-up at the Players this year, and he's also, since the renovation, has played Muirfield well. He's got a top 10 and a top 5 in that span. And this is the best Matt Fitzpatrick that we have ever seen, given, I mean, his results this year speak entirely to that. And, like, I don't feel like there's enough Fitzpatrick love this week, especially, like you said, going into those placement markets here. He's a guy who statistically lines up exactly what we're looking for this venue. Just a guy who, he has 2 stats in my entire model where he is not in the top 15. That is out of the sand and on the greens, which we know he's not the greatest putter in the world. He's still above average in terms of that putting number this week. He's still right around field average for the sand save percentage. But when everything else is top 15 or top 10, like, this is a guy who is tailor-made for this course, and it wouldn't shock me in any way to see Fitzpatrick win this event.
Yeah, he's my favorite of the, like, 15 to 25-1 odd guys. And, again, top 5 plus 345 on DK, like, sign me up. He's got so much confidence right now. He drives the ball extremely accurate. Great iron player. The improvement he's made scrambling, particularly out of the rough, is significant. And he's shown this year his putter can get hot, which is something we had not seen the last couple of years. So, and I also think it's motivated him having his brother on tour. Like, I think that, he probably feels like a kid again, right? Like, that him and his baby brother just, pinch me. I can't believe we're on the PGA Tour together. So, no, I love Fitzpatrick. I actually think his number is by far the best of like the favorites.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about Alex is a guy who also statistically lines up pretty darn well for this course. Obviously not getting, as we talked about, the favorites tend to win this event. Alex Fitzpatrick, you're getting 165-1 on DraftKings if you're interested in the Alex Fitzpatrick market. But I do just want to run through his profile here. He's 13th in my model this week. And yes, we don't have the collection of stats that we have on some of these other players. He's bad out of the sand. His bogey, Alex is not afraid to make a bogey.
No.
The man's just not afraid to make a bogey, but that's because he's scoring so much it hasn't mattered. But what really intrigues me, he's second in the field in approach proximity from 200 plus. He's 7th in birdie or better percentage, but 1st in par 5 birdie or better percentage. And while we don't have a ton of history on him on the comparable courses, what we do have of him, he's been a top 25 player on the comparable courses to Muirfield Village. And outside of those 2 major holes, like statistically lines up to be a strong contender at an event like this. So I don't hate him. If you are leaning more into the placement markets, which is certainly where I'm leaning a little bit more on Alex, the top 20 is paying out 3.5 to 1. If you think he can top 10, that's basically paying 10 to 1 on DraftKings right now. Like, you could go with either of the Fitzpatrick. I may throw together a Fitzy parlay and just see what happens, because if both of these guys top 20, it's probably paying pretty well.
I mean, don't forget too, this is a 70 player field,
right?
Where at least 50 guys are going to make the cut, and potentially, 60, 65. I mean, it's literally anybody within 10 shots is going to make the cut. And we've talked about that. Yes, the winning score has been pretty low, even since the remodel, but like the median scores, you're not out of it, like at all. Like, even if you get off to a bad start. So
you just have to play not awful the first 2 days. If you can play near, like, I'll go as far as saying like 2 over. Like, if you can play 2 over total your first 2 days, you have a legitimate chance at making the cut. That's on the low end.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would be shocked if 2 over doesn't make the cut. And the other thing I like about it is, if you worry about his experience here, he's got a brother who's got 3 days to get Alex up to speed on this golf course. So, again, huge advantage for Alex Fitzpatrick.
As we continue on to talk about some of the longer shots that we do like this week, I'm going to keep riding the Alex Smalley train until the wheels fall off. Smalley, he made a lot of money for me on DFS last year when he hit one of these hot streaks. It was a lot earlier in the year. He opened the season really, really hot last year and then faltered off towards the end. But we are seeing even a better version of Alex Smalley thus far this year. This is a guy who 3rd place finish last week, 2nd place runner-up finish at the PGA. But even before that, T17 at the Truist, T7 at the Cadillac, was the runner-up team to the Fitzpatricks at the Zurich Classic, and had a 14 and 21st before that. He's not played here well when he's played here before. But again, this is not the Alex Smalley of the past. This is a very different player that we are getting. He's the 10th player in my model. He's 7th on approach, 8th from 200 plus. He's the best putter over the last 36 rounds on fast bent grass greens. Like, again, just a profile that doesn't really have a ton of holes. And weirdly, the only hole that his profile does have is the 50 to 100 yard range for whatever reason. And I don't like, we are going to see an above average number of those shots. That weirdly is the other bucket that we see. Maybe not that weird when we consider the distance of the course and the fact that you don't just bomb driver here as far as you can. But there's certainly profiles with much bigger holes and much worse overall profiles that are not paying 61 to 1 to win the event. And even if you're, again, not confident that he can win the event, he's paying 4.5 to 1 to top 10. If you can think of top 5, that's 10 to 1. Even top 20 is paying, basically 2 to 1. Like, I'm just going to keep riding the Alex Smalley train at this point. I don't see a reason to get off.
You're not going to hear me argue. Big fan of his game. Was gutted at the PGA Championship. I felt like that in many ways he did everything he needed to win that event. Also, obviously, I'm upset because I had him at 165 to 1 to win. And that, I'm still not over that. But I love players with this kind of game. And he reminds me a lot of like a Russell Henley, but the difference is Smalley's got some firepower. Like, Smalley actually can move it.
He can gain distance on the field.
Which makes him even more dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have Sepp Straka in this range. You'll never see me being a huge advocate for Sepp Straka. But weirdly enough, like I still think of him as a short course merchant. But in a lot of ways, Muirfield doesn't play 7,600 yards like a lot of other 7,600 yard courses play. And I think it's the positionality that this venue requires. But Straka is a name that even before you texted me saying that you were in on him this week, he was third place last year, fifth place the year before, 16th the year before that. So it's a guy who's trending in the right direction at this venue. The last time we saw him play was a European Tour event, the Austrian Open. What a surprise. The Austrians playing in Austria. I'm shocked. But he T12 there. The irons are, continuing to be a weapon for him. It's been his best club for most of his career and most of this year as well. And we're getting him at a venue that he likes. Like 66-1 is not horrible.
Hell no. And again, he's like almost 10-1 to top 5, 4-1 to top 10. Like you can't beat that. I mean, not only has his, finishing position improved each of the last couple of years, his like cumulative score under par or his score under par each year has gotten better. Like it seems like he is figuring out this golf course. And then I really had not considered this a second shot golf course, but once I read that on Twitter, like I can't get it out of my head. And Straka is maybe the best second shot, golf course player in the world, because again, his irons are just so freaking good, and he gets actually better on approach the further he gets away.
Yeah, it's a second shot course, but not in the way that a lot of courses are, right? Like a lot of times when you hear second shot course, it's like, all right, you put yourself in a good position for the green or to hit the green off the tee. A lot of people are thinking about the second shot that way. But when I see a course like this, where that 50 to 75 and that 100 to 125 yard bucket see such a large number of shots, it screams to me that the second shot that's of importance on this course is not necessarily going for the green. It's putting yourself in the right spot to have your third shot into the green create a scoring opportunity for you, specifically on those par fives and on the par fours that are attackable. Like there's really not a ton of them. There's one, maybe two that are under 400 yards that are going to create legitimate scoring opportunities for players. But it's just such a hard course like this, where, as we've seen with Scottie, if you have a great week with your irons, your putter doesn't really matter. And what holds Sepp Straka back, arguably more than anything else, more often than not, it's the flat stick. So while you could have a week where you could see a guy go nuclear with the putter here, like a Victor Hovland, Denny McCarthy, you could also just have a guy who just doesn't strike the irons well. And
it is interesting though that Straka, not a obviously a great putter, but if you look from like the range of 15 to 20 feet, 20 to 25 feet, he is one of the better players on tour in both of those distances. And obviously with very small greens, you're going to get a lot more of those putts, right? Like because you get too much outside of that, you're going to be missing the green anyway.
Yep.
And I think that's another reason he's had so much success here.
He's gained strokes with the putter in 6 of the 7 starts that he's made here. And the one time he didn't was his miscut in 2021. So it's certainly a play that makes a lot of sense here. But like we talked about, the player prop market is certainly a bit more interesting for us. The placement props, everything of that nature. Are there any other props you want to just touch on real quick that are really intriguing to you or offering what you deem to be some pretty good value?
Yeah, Tom Hoge is plus 670 to top 20. This is a guy
better
that
now.
Just finished. Is it better now? God dang it, man! I betted too early this week.
Yeah, it's going 8-1 on DraftKings or 9-1 on FanDuel.
God, so like that bet, and then also the Cantley to top 10, which also went up since I placed it. It was plus 184. Now it's 2-1,
2.5-1, almost 3-1 on FanDuel.
God,
you got in too early, Keith.
Jesus. But I mean, with Hoge, he's finished 25th at Aronimink, which is another venue again that a lot of people think is a correlated course here. He's had a recent like top 15 finish at Augusta National. He's finished top 15 at this venue in recent years.
7th last year.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you're getting him at now 8-1 to top 20. He's basically got to beat 50 guys from the start of the week. He's a great long iron player. And if his putter gets hot, which it does from time to time, I mean, it would not surprise me at all, again, if he has a top 10 finishing.
25 or 27 to 1, pending your book, to top 10 this week. So just plays that absolutely make a ton of sense. And I'm fully in on the sentiment with you that I think the player prop market, especially with what DraftKings offers, you can get so creative with some of the props that you bet. Some of the most profitable for me have been betting the nationality props. So betting your top European golfer, Australian golfer, rest of world, whatever it may be. A lot of those are very profitable odds. I've even gotten events where Scottie's had better odds to be the top American golfer than he has to win the whole event.
Wow.
So it goes to show you that, dive into the plays that are available for you every given week. And there's certainly options to make some money. And we're going to show you, before we wrap up here, one more way to make some money at this venue and talk about our friends over at Fantasy Spin.
Spin, pick, win.
So with our new partners over at Fantasy Spin, if you guys aren't familiar with what Fantasy Spin is yet at this point, it is a gamified experience that allows you to play DFS with a creative side to it. When you look at what Fantasy Spin offers, it's a very different way of playing DFS, and you can absolutely hit the jackpot. You can spin, make your picks, win some money, and there's different events that you can enter every single week. So far this year, we have been entering into the main event with our lineup this week. However, this week, I want to make it a little bit different. So we're going to go for the winner take all event with our Fantasy Spin lineup here. So we're going to start it off. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Fantasy Spin, you get a certain amount of spins and a certain amount of players that you can lock in place during the event. So as we run through this, or before we run through this, I do want to shout out the guys over at Fantasy Spin. If you guys check out the link in the description or just download the app and use code IBT Golf at sign up, when you deposit at least $10 and play one tournament, you will get $30 in bonus plays. Directly supports the channel over here, as well as the guys over at Fantasy Spin, which is a great group of dudes that we're working with. So I do want to always make sure to shout that out. Plus, who doesn't love $30 in free play? I know I do. But let's start it off this week. So as we spin, we'll see the projections for the players. We'll see their projected outcomes. And another important thing, this is a phenomenal first spin off rip. It's rare that you get the triple pop on the you typically when you have the sound on in here, it's like hitting a bonus on a slot machine. You get the noises, the lights, the flashing, all of that fun stuff. But we get Xander, Cam Young, and Bobby McIntyre, who are all top 10 projected players this week. I'm going to lock in Xander. I'm going to lock in Cam Young. I'm going to hold off on McIntyre for now. But I could take the approach of lock him in now and unlock him later. That's one of the fun parts about Fantasy Spin is you can just lock in a guy that you like. And if you get better options later on, you can certainly pull them out. Given that we only have 4 locks, though, and 9 spins to play, I'm going to let it ride without McIntyre in the lineup. So with our next spin here, we get Michael Kim, we get Corey Connors, Ryo Satsune, Patrick Rogers. Say 4 floor plays, but this is the winner take all. Give me the ceiling. I want to take some swings. You could go with a guy like Tony Finau, who does have some good history at this venue. You could go with a guy like Hideki. I saw a stat on Twitter. The last time Hideki had a week where he gained as much as he did last week with the irons and did not win that event, he ended up winning the following event both times. So I have a lot of belief in what Hideki can do here. The thing that scares me with Hideki at the Memorial, at Muirfield Village is that man does not know where his driver's going half the time. He thinks it's off the planet and it's center cut. He thinks it's center cut and the thing is in Arkansas and he's playing in South Africa for that event. That's just where his shots can end up. But like I said, I want some of that upside. I'm locking in Hideki for now. Again, we've got 7 more spins. I can unlock Hideki if the rest of my lineup starts to look a little bit different. I'm cool with Mark Hubbard. I'm cool with Ryan Gerard. I don't hate Gerard this week overall for DFS. Not going to lock him in early when I only have 1 more lock though. Christopher Wrighton, Aaron Rai, Rory McIlroy. See, that's what I'm talking about. We're just going to lock in Rory and we're going to unlock Hideki real quick.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I love about this is even as you're going through, we're not necessarily committed. But also at any point, if I looked at this build, say this also had Scottie in here and it had Ludwig, for example, as the other two spots that were there, I'd already locked Hideki in. I could just stop here. I don't have to use all of my spins. And if something changes, if I learn something about the venue that I wasn't considering, or the field changes and I want the opportunity to look at some different players, if you don't use all of your spins anytime before the event starts, you can go back in and use the remainder of your spins and see what players are still available to you. But I'm very happy with where we're sitting right now with Rory, Cam Young, and Xander. I have 3 of the top 4 players in my model. I'm never going to be mad at that. Eric Cole is a guy I do, again, really, really like this week for DFS purposes. One of the hottest players in the field coming into the event, and I do think he lines up really well here. I don't love him enough to use my last lock on him yet. Are you in agreement there?
Yeah, there's no way.
Perfect.
We want as many spots as possible for Scottie.
We got Spieth, Thigala, Meisner. Again, like if this is where my build ended, right? If I had no more spins and this is what I ended up with, I don't hate it. I think Spieth and Thigala have a ton of upside. Meisner is one of the best bogey avoiders on the planet. But again, I got some spins. I'm playing for this upside. Am I right? Am I crazy?
No. Also, notice if you pay attention in the very middle, the yellow number and the stars with each lineup, it will basically give a projection and then tell, is this a 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star lineup?
Yeah.
In my experience, if I get to where it's 4.5, like 5 stars, I'm pretty much wrapping that bad boy up.
Yeah. Very happy when that's the outcome.
There.
We get Straka.
No. Well, we did get Straka.
With only 3 spins left and 1 lock remaining, I am going to lock in Straka here.
Yep.
And we're going to hope that we get a couple good players, or even something that's actually I've had a lot of success with is, say I get a top 10 player with 1 more of these spins, I may just end it there, regardless of who that other player is, just because the likelihood of me getting another one of those players is lower. So we're going to use the spin here. We get Patrick Rogers, Brian Harman. Don't hate Harman overall. But again, this is a winner take all. I need some upside here. We get Hoagie. We get Wrighton. We do like Hoagie this week.
It actually did rise from the one previous. I think it went from 430 to 446. So.
Yeah, but I'm going to risk it for the biscuit. Scottie's out there. We got one more spin. Let's see what we get. We get Tommy. We get Keegan.
And Bradley. There you go.
I am absolutely not mad whatsoever.
40 points.
Yeah, we get to 3.5 stars. So as you see here, our projected finish based off the projected points for these players is 3rd in this field. And so of everybody who's entered this event so far, I have the 3rd highest projected score. We see their projections and their ranks amongst the players based off of the projections here as well. One of the cool things about Fantasy Spin, and this works for all of the sports that they do, is say something comes out tomorrow, Keegan Bradley gets hurt, gets sick, whatever. He's not going to play in the event.
You just drafted Jake Knapp yesterday.
Yep. If you drafted Jake Knapp yesterday or earlier today before the withdraw news came out, his projected point total is locked into your score. You are going to get the player's projections regardless of what happens from that point. So it does give you a safety net, whereas a lot of DFS options really don't get you that. With Fantasy Spin, they have multiple sports as well. So as you can see here, they have NBA, MLB, you have the PGA as we've been doing, NHL, NASCAR, NFL will be available once we get to the football season as well. And as you can see on here, there's a variety of events. You have the main event. You have your hole-in-one, which is your winner-take-all event. You can also play this app without using real money. They have an in-game currency, which is just tokens that you can use to play in the event. So you don't have to actually spend money on the app either if you want to just get the experience without having to invest capital into it. You also get head-to-head matchups, which is a great opportunity as well for players who, if you feel you're a little bit sharper, you can definitely take advantage of the head-to-head matchups and just limit your exposure that way as well. So there's a ton of fun to be had. over on Fantasy Spin. So again, check out the link in the description below. Use code IBT Golf at sign up to and deposit $10. Play in one of these tournaments. You'll get $30 in bonus plays. So absolutely make sure to check that out. But guys, that has been another week of the 19th hole. We appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we will see you all at our next tee time.